I work at Memorial Hospital in Phoenix, Arizona. I've worked there for 3 years as a surgical technologist. Good pay, good job, you know. I prepare patients to have organ transplants. Sad work sometimes, but I thought I was making a difference. My name is Kiara, and I wish that I never worked on at that dump. Anyway, my late Tuesday. The coffee machine was out again, grumpifying me as usual. Had to prepare a patient for organ removal. Young guy, 25 years old. Car wreck, that's what they told me. 2 days brain dead. The OR was chilly that evening. I remember because I continued to shiver when preparing the equipment. The patient was incredibly relaxed reclining there. His name was Marcus, I believe. I always read the charts, though I likely shouldn't. I was preparing the scalpels when an odd thing occurred. The man's eyes, they shifted, not like any spasm or whatever. They actually focused on me, tracked me around the room. I just stood there. Brain-dead individuals don't do that. I've seen dozens of these deaths. Their eyes never shift, empty. But he was looking at me. I had to run and get Dr. Hammond, who is the chief surgeon. He's this tall, stern individual who drives a BMW, always sporting high-priced watches. When I explained to him what I had seen, he simply laughed. "Kiara, you're exhausted. Sometimes the body experiences muscle spasms after death. It's normal." But I knew what I was seeing. That was not spasms. Marcus had seen it. The succeeding days were odd. My keycard no longer worked on some floors. The computer system would glitch whenever I was about to view patient records. I suspected it was simply hospital IT being incompetent, as usual. Then I discovered something in the supply room, a stack of papers stuck behind some crates. Medical records, but they were strange. The brainwave monitors indicated normal readings, but someone had put deceased in red across the top. I double-checked the names against recent organ donors. All of them matched. My hands were shaking as I went through them. These patients weren't deceased. The computer reports didn't exist. Someone was falsifying the numbers to simulate brain death when individuals were merely comatose. I stuffed the papers into my pocket and headed home. My apartment wasn't home that night, as if someone had visited. The television was on a station I never watch. My cat, Whiskers, was under the bed and wouldn't come out. The following morning, I received a text message from a number I didn't have saved. "Stop searching or you'll be next on the list." It was then I realized I was in deep trouble. I attempted to maintain my composure at the office, but something was not right. Dr. Hammond kept glaring at me in meetings. 3 different security guards accompanied me through the day. I resolved to scan the computer system myself. I sneaked into the monitoring room one evening. The monitors indicated typical brain activity for present patients, yet the official records indicated they were brain dead. They were breaking into the system, the simulation of dead people when they were very much alive. I was copying evidence when I heard them, heavy boots on tile, approaching. I grabbed the pages and fled. The exit door jammed, my keycard flashed red. They had severed my access. I hid in a supply closet, my heart racing. Behind the slightly open door, I heard Dr. Hammond speaking with 2 security guards. He was holding a syringe. "Get her. She knows too much. Stage an accident." I waited for them to leave, then crawled out the window. Slashed myself on the glass, but I didn't care. I looked into organ trafficking at home on the net. It seems that new organs cost millions on the black market. Wealthy clients are willing to pay extra for organs from live donors because they work better. Dr. Hammond was in business, murdering individuals for their organs and selling them to rich criminals abroad. I went to the police, but they told me they needed more evidence. I attempted to return to the hospital, but they laid my job off. "Budget cuts," they said. "I'm living with my sister in Denver now." Changed number. But I still get night calls, hang-ups for the most part. I saw Dr. Hammond last week at the supermarket. smiled and waved at me as if we knew each other. Told me he hoped I was staying healthy. I don't know how many he killed during my time there, how many still had a pulse when we harvested their organs. I can never forget the eyes of Marcus, the way they trailed behind me around the room. He was attempting to tell me something to me. I should have listened sooner. My name is... just call me Jake. I worked maintenance at St. Mary's Hospital in Detroit for nearly 3 years. It was no great job, but it paid the bills. My wife was pregnant with our first child, so I couldn't risk losing it. The hospital was old, extremely old, built in the 1940s, I think. The kind where the pipes groaned and the lights flickered out by themselves. You get used to it after a while. Anyway, my boss, Rick, informed me in March that I needed to repair some electrical issues in the East Wing basement. The entire wing had been shut down, renovations off limits for more than 2 years. I mean, at least that's what everyone had claimed. I'd never even been there. The East Wing was cool, maybe. The corridors were darker than the rest of the hospital. My flashlight was running out even though I'd just put fresh batteries in it. When I arrived at the basement, there was something strange. Electricity was on. Not emergency lights, electricity. The fluorescent lighting hummed above. Why would they have electricity in a closed wing? I began work on the electrical panel. Not anything wild, just new wiring for some of the older parts. But then I could hear footsteps upstairs. Deep, heavy footsteps, like someone walking around in flimsy shoes. That was when I noticed the doors. 3 along the hallway, all with the words, "Authorized personnel only." But here was the catch. They were new locked. New electronic locked, not the old metal locked like all the other places in the hospital. I should have just done my job and be gone. But curiosity got the better of me. I approached the first door and put my ear against it. I heard voices. Kind of. Yes, definitely voices. And something else. Beeping. Like heart monitors. My keycard was acknowledged by the lock. I have no idea why I even attempted it, but it worked. There were 6 hospital beds in the room, and all of them were filled. All of them had someone in them wearing hospital gowns, but they were off. No ID tags, no medical charts. Some of them had intravenous tubes inserted into their arms. Others had bandages wrapped around their heads. All of them were unconscious or sedated. I couldn't tell which. Something in a lab coat stepped up behind me. "Can I help you?" he said. Very soothing. Too soothing. "I'm just doing some electrical work," I told him. My voice broke slightly. "This section is off limits," he replied. "You don't have to be here." "Sorry, I'll just get out of here and finish up," I said. But as I started to make my way away, I spotted one of the patients, a woman about 40 years old. She looked up at me and opened her eyes. Her mouth moved as if she were trying to say something, but nothing came out. I chased the devil out of there. The next day, I visited the administration office, inquired about the East Wing. The reception woman glared at me. "The basement in the East Wing is closed to renovations," she told me. "There's nothing down there." "But I was down there yesterday." She tapped on a few files on her computer. "From what our files indicate, there is no basement in the East Wing. The blueprints indicate that it was never constructed." Rick summoned me to his office that afternoon. He closed the door and sat down across from me. "I heard you were asking questions about the East Wing," he said. "I was just asking about..." "Don't ask," he cut in. "There are things you don't want to know." "But what I saw down there..." "You didn't see anything." His voice grew rather stern. "And if you think you did see, Maybe you might take into consideration the fact that there are experiments here in this hospital that always require volunteers. Individuals who wish to know too much sometimes end up being just wonderfully useful to medical science. I said nothing else, just nodded. I didn't sleep that night. I kept playing that woman's eyes over and over in my mind, the expression she gave me, like she was begging for help. I quit the next week, deceived my wife, and told her that I received a better opportunity in the other side of town. She was pleased that I did because it was a higher salary. Sometimes late at night, however, I still ponder about those people in the cellar. Who were they? What was being done to them? I occasionally drive by St. Mary's on the way home from work. The East Wing still remains supposedly closed for renovation, but I could have sworn I've seen lights in the basement windows. I never mentioned what I'd seen. I have a family now, a baby daughter. I cannot afford to risk it. But if you ever find yourself employed at St. Mary's Hospital in Detroit, just stay away from the East Wing basement. Trust me, some things should be left alone. I never really told this story to anyone in my life before. Not all of it, anyway, but I couldn't help but dwell on it, especially after what happened to my neighbor's mother last month. She went into memory care as well. I worked as a Riverside Medical Center aide in Phoenix. That was like 3 years ago. I needed to work desperately because my student loans were murdering me, and they were hiring anyone who would score a cursory background check. The memory care wing was on the 4th floor, and I have to admit that I thought it would be a piece of cake. Just assist old people with eating and their meds, right? My manager was this lady named Janet. She had this unnerving smile that never quite made it up to her eyes, you know? Like when customer service people are faking it. She had a constant hair no matter what. These outrageously pink scrubs that were too gaudy for a room where people were forgetting their own names. The first week was good. I assisted patients with minor things. There was this nice old lady, Mrs. Chen, who kept inquiring about her daughter visiting. I explained that I'd checked the schedule, but when I checked, 0 visitors were scheduled for her. None. Similarly, for Mr. Rodriguez and Mrs. Thompson, 0 visitors scheduled for weeks. I asked Janet at lunch. She was munching on one of those nasty microwave burritos in the break room. "Oh, honey," she said, mouthful. "Family visits are too stressful for patients at this level. We've found that it's best to keep them calm and centered on their care." Made sense, I suppose. But something about it didn't seem right. The therapy was also strange. All patients received these injections twice daily. Not insulin, not anything usual. These were in unlabeled syringes, which Dr. Hoffman brought in a locked briefcase. I once asked him what they were. He growled, "Experimental therapy," and left in a huff. That is when all of this began to go wrong. Mrs. Chen ceased inquiring about her daughter. She wouldn't say more than a word at all. Mr. Rodriguez began developing these awful headaches and would suddenly scream out. Mrs. Thompson developed this tremble in her hand that hadn't been there before. I was trapped working late one evening because a call-in had left. I was getting some stuff from the supply closet when I overheard Janet on her phone in her office. The walls weren't all that thick, so I heard it all pretty clearly. "Yeah, the families are believing it," she said. "We're sending them reports that the patients are too far gone to even notice that their visitors are there. They're upset, but they're not questioning it anymore." I pressed my ear against the wall. "The trials of the drug are going okay. Hoffman promises that we will have sufficient data after 6 months. Phoenix Pharmaceuticals is paying us twice the price which we had agreed to." My hands began to tremble. I dropped a box of gloves and they went scattering everywhere. Janet fell silent. I hopped quickly to gather them up and made a swift departure. The next few days, I could not concentrate. I just wondered why Mrs. Chen's daughter believed her mother did not want to come see her. I started researching the families on the internet, found Mrs. Chen's daughter on Facebook. She lived locally, right here in Phoenix, and had been posting messages of desperation that she missed her mother. I almost phoned her. Almost. Then I recalled Janet's advice to keep a cool head for the patients. Perhaps this was best. But then Mrs. Thompson passed away. Just passed away in her sleep. They told me it was natural, but she was fine the day before, talking just fine. I met her son at the funeral. He was crying and said he wished that he could have seen her one more time before she got too bad to remember him. That's when I knew I had to do something. I began to write down everything. The unlabeled injections, the tampered with medical records, patients deteriorating rather than improving. I was going to call the families, perhaps call the state health department. But Janet found out. She summoned me to her office on a Tuesday. I recall because the coffee machine wasn't running and I was utterly exhausted. She had this folder on her desk with my name typed on it. "Kira," she said, resorting to that insincere smile, "we need to discuss your mental health." Inside the folder were set up reports, complaints that I'd been behaving erratically, muttering to myself, coming up with outlandish conspiracy theories. All signed by Dr. Hoffman. "It would be so easy," Janet continued, "to have you committed for psychiatric evaluation, especially with your family history of depression. Who would believe someone who's been declared mentally unstable?" That night, I started getting phone calls, heavy breathing, then hanging up. My apartment felt like someone had been inside it, even though nothing was missing. I quit the next day. Didn't even give notice. Just walked out. Sometimes I drive by Riverside Medical Center and wonder if they're still doing it. Wonder how many families think their loved ones are too far gone to remember them. I never called Mrs. Chen's daughter. I probably should have, but I'm telling you this story now because, well, because someone needs to know the truth about what goes on in places like that, when people can't speak for themselves anymore.